Now the major one is over, it's time to do a little bit of a recap, talk about each team, and then also if you want to hear me talk about roster mania predictions, definitely sub to the channel because I will be posting that video soon. But as you can see on screen, we have the full bracket, and this was one of the weirder majors we've ever seen. We saw two top 4 teams in the Miami Heretics and New York Subliners go out bottom 12, which is absolutely insane. And then we also saw, the Toronto Ultra take down FaZe in the finals. I think the finals was pretty predictable, FaZe versus Ultra. But, I mean, Rocker making top 4, Surge making a little bit of run, LAG making a little bit of run. It was definitely a really weird event. And here's an updated look at the final prizings and placings from the event. So, obviously, Toronto in first, netting themselves 100 CDL points. And you can see the rest. I'm not going to read all of them for you. The bottom 4 getting no money and no points, which is definitely not good for you if you want to make champs. And then I also want to briefly touch on the box score for Toronto Ultra versus FaZe in the finals. If you look at these numbers, you would not think FaZe lost, especially in a 4-1 fashion. I mean, everybody on their team had an even or positive KD, except for Abizi, who had a .78, didn't really have a lot of damage, kind of got tucked a little bit. And then on the side of Toronto Ultra, I mean, Insight with a 1.42 was absolutely mind-blowing. But the rest of his team going negative, which is pretty crazy. Obviously, Kleenex came out with the MVP for the event. I think it was well-deserved. Any of the guys on Ultra honestly could have gotten it. I think Kleenex, though, definitely well-deserved. Has an insane POV. Scrap always pushing the pace and doing damage like always. But I really wanted to highlight this because this is honestly pretty crazy to see the KD difference, especially when you look at the fact that it was 4-1. Now, let's look at the overall standings for the league, as you can see here. Toronto Ultra obviously up to first place, followed by FaZe, Optic, Minnesota, and then New York still in the 5th spot despite getting 0 points. Just goes to show you that, doing good online and getting those 10 points per win is pretty helpful. Then Surge, Miami, LAG, and then you can kind of see the rest. Boston and Thieves at the bottom is honestly a bit unexpected and really sad for me, especially as a Thieves fan. We're going to work our way up the standings, going through each team pretty briefly. And as I said, I'll do a whole Roster Mania video separately. So if you do want to skip forward to see a specific team, you can definitely do that. Let's talk about the LA Thieves first. This is my team, and I have a feeling this is going to be the last time we see this team. I will go into more detail on this in my future video, but everybody with a negative KD. Ghosty had like a 1.4 in the one series they played on LAN, which is good. But overall, I mean, this team, 1 hardpoint win so far this season. We're decent at control, which is, it's only 1 map in the entire series. So if you want to be good at any mode, control is probably not the one you want to be really great at. And then Search and Destroy, we're okay at it, but we're not really great. Overall, this team is just super, super disappointing. I mean, 3-1 by the Legion by the Gorillas at the event just was not great overall. And then a pretty tough lineup going into the next split. We got Optic, we got Miami, we got Rocker, we got FaZe, Ultra at the end. I mean, Thieves look like they're going to have a rough one. They need to make some moves. Now to talk about the Boston Breach, a team that I think is in a really interesting spot because they have shown promise, right? This Boston team has shown that they can compete with some of the better teams in the league, which is really, really crazy. Obviously, giving Toronto Ultra their only loss of the season in a 3-0 fashion is pretty crazy. At the event, they lost in a Game 5 to the Seattle Surge. If Boston was better at SND, they definitely could have won this series and made a run at the event. But I mean, overall, there was some cheese in that game, in that matchup with some, GAs being broken and stuff. But looking at the stats, I mean, everyone negative. Slasher actually has a 1.0. He had an insane weekend as well. Only 1 series, but he put up like a 1.5. Biggest thing for me is this Boston team is bad at Search and Destroy, which is pretty wild when you look at their KDs, considering Capstone and Snoopy both are sitting at around a 1.1. But you got Slasher and Priesta, both that were honestly, I think both of these guys were at like 0.7s coming into the major. So they brought it up a little bit, and Capstone and Snoopy's actually came down because they're at 1.2s. But overall, this team, do they make a change? Do they not make a change? Like I said, stay tuned for the video. Now to talk about one of the more surprising teams at the event, the Carolina Royal Ravens. Obviously, TJ Halley in for Real because of visa issues, Fellow in for God RX as an official team change, and then, of course, Gwyn and Clay. At the event, they were able to 3-1 the New York Subliners in that first losers bracket game, which was absolutely insane considering the Subliners were a top 3, top 4 team coming into the event, and obviously the reigning world champions. And then they lost in a Game 5 to the Seattle Surge, suffering the same fate as the previous team, Boston Breach. This Ravens team, honestly, they showed a lot at the event, in my opinion. Fellow looked exceptional on LAN. Tej did his thing. Clay was okay. Gwyn was pretty solid. He's been solid all year long. This is a team that, like I said, we'll talk about more in my Roster Mania predictions video. But this is a team that could stick, could make changes. We will have to wait and see. They're pretty bad in Search and Destroy with only 2 wins. They're actually pretty good in hardpoint, surprisingly, with an even record. And then, you know, they're not great in control. But this current team that they had on LAN, I do think could be a team that could stick. But overall, I mean, if you're a Ravens fan or you're somebody in the Ravens organization, you can't be too upset with your placing considering you haven't had this team that long. Now to talk about the Las Vegas Legion, who had a really, really weird event, in my opinion. If we look at their matches, they 3-0'd the Miami Heretics, who were a top team coming into the game. Not only did they 3-0 him, I think Purge set a absolute Call of Duty competitive history record here, putting up a .46 KD, 24 kills, and his team won 3-0. I mean, absolutely insane. Journey got tucked in this series. I mean, a .57. But Purge did literally nothing. No offense to him. And his team still won in a 3-0 fashion. So shout out to him, I guess. But then they lost in a game 5. They got reverse swept by the LA Guerrillas. This is the 3rd time this Legion team has been reverse swept this year. They got to figure something out, right? You cannot be getting reverse swept 3 times. But when you do think about it, the fact that you're able to go up 2-0 that many times is sort of a positive. So it puts them in a weird spot because, like, they're able to win maps, but they're not always able to close out series. So they're definitely in a really, really weird spot. This Legion team has some serious potential, I think, to be a top 6 contender, but maybe they're one piece away. Now for LAG, a team that, you know, got a couple wins at the Major, has been on and off this entire season. I don't really know what to think about LA Guerrillas. They're a very odd team. I can't click anything on the website. Let me refresh real quick. But yeah, like I was saying, this is a very weird team, right? They beat LA Thieves, which isn't exactly anything crazy. They reverse swept Legion. I mean, Legion haven't been great, but getting a reverse sweep is always tippable. And then they lost in a game 5 to Minnesota Rocker. So overall, this team has had its ups, has its downs. Diamond Khan has been an exceptional player this year so far, in my opinion. Honestly, Assault has done his thing. Fame and Estriel have also done their thing. Fame has been great in Search and Destroy, just like Diamond Con, but Assault and Estriel have been a bit down. If you look at their maps and modes, honestly, they're like, they're decent at everything, you know what I mean? Like, they're able to get wins on every single mode. And this is just overall a weird team that showed potential, was able to get themselves into that top 6, but wasn't able to really close it out. And they seem like they're a team that's going to struggle against the better ones. Now to talk about the new 7th place team in the league, it is the Miami Heretics. Miami they came off a weekend where they won back-to-back 3-0s against Optic and LAG, and then proceeded to get swept by Optic and swept by Legion at the Major, which is, I don't even know what to say about that. I don't know what happened to them. They just got absolutely annihilated. In terms of the team as a whole, they obviously are a good team. It will be interesting to see if they make a move. They obviously have Eric Boom on their bench, who's been doing good in Challengers, who was originally supposed to be on this team over Journey. So it's interesting if we see them make that swap once again. But this Miami team had a super, super disappointing Major, and I do want to see them bounce back because Major 2 is going to be in Miami. It is their home Major, and it'll be great to see them perform well at that. They obviously have a fan base behind them. But overall, this was just like, it was honestly a shocking performance out of Miami. Now for the 6th place Seattle Surge. I mean, listen, we look at what they did at the Major, right? They obviously got swept by Toronto in round 1, 3-2 Breach, 3-2 Ravens, and then lost 3-1 to Optic. So, you know, good ice out of them, I guess, to win 2 game 5s. These guys can't stop breaking GAs. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They broke GAs, I think, in like 2 or 3 other series this event. I think they've broken a GA in at least 50% of their series they've played this year. They got to stop breaking GAs. These guys might not get scrims for the entirety of Major 2. We'll see what the punishment ends up being. Honestly, it's hard to say, good job, Surge, you got top 6 or whatever because of what they did. You know what I mean? Like, constantly breaking GAs. Now, is breaking GAs going to change the course of a match and make it so that they win? Was it like a game 5, round 11, 1v1, GAs broken for the win? No, but you shouldn't be breaking GAs. You very obviously know what you're doing. And overall, I mean, this team, Illy obviously has been good this entire year. I'm not going to get into everything we saw on Twitter with Illy. I don't want to make any assumptions. If there is something going on with him, I hope he gets the help he needs. But Illy had a good event. Hook also, I thought, played pretty good, and Abuza did well. Arcees obviously has been the odd man out for most of this year on this team. And we'll talk about that in my roster mania video. Now getting into the top 5, New York Subliners somehow still in 5th despite going out top 12. I mean, honestly, typical for them to be still in 6th. 3-0'd by the Rocker and then 3-1'd by the Ravens. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you could really say about this team. They just weren't there. There were some maps where Sib and Skies were doing poor. There were some maps where Hydra and Kids were doing poor. They just didn't seem to have consistency across the entire team for any of their matches at all. I mean, this team was undefeated in Search and Destroy. Then they lost to Ultra Online. They lost, you know, their searches on LAN. What they got to figure out what went wrong in this event. Whatever the case may be, why they weren't consistent on LAN. But if I'm the Subliners, if I'm a Subliners fan, I'm not overreacting. We know what this team can do. We know what they did last year, and then they brought in someone like Sib. I wouldn't be too crazy yet. All right, now talk about our new 4th place team, the Minnesota Rocker. I mean, if we look back at their matches, this team was in last place up until like 2 or 3 weeks ago. If you look at their matches, I mean, they've lost to Optic, they've lost to Heretics, they lost to Subliners Online, they lost to Ultra, and they've lost to Optic. So they've literally lost against like the good upper echelon teams. So this Rocker team, honestly, has proved me wrong and a lot of people wrong. Look at their KDs. Lynn's got to be rookie of the year so far, in my opinion. This guy's been exceptional. Accuracy and Wake, I think, turned up on LAN, which was great to see. And then Vivid, obviously, has always been an inconsistent player his entire career. But when he's frying, this team looks really, really good. This is a team I would expect to stick together going into Major 2. I mean, you place top 4 at the Major against all odds. I mean, maybe you try to make a move to see if you can get even better. But you finally found your form. I don't know if you really want to change anything yet. Now for the top 3, Optic Texas, 3rd at the event. Overall, 3rd in the standings. I mean, this team, I think, personally, I wouldn't be disappointed as an Optic fan with getting 3rd. Obviously, you want to win. Every team, every fan base wants their team to win. 3rd place is not 1st place. But the team played well, honestly. Pred did his thing. Pred was definitely their MVP on LAN for me. Kenny has been great all year long. Dashy, I think, had some good series, had some bad series. Same thing with Shotzzy. Shotzzy made a lot of plays, a lot of rotations and hardpoint, which I thought was really, really good. But this team, they just really need to work on their Search and Destroy. If we look, they're probably a top 3 team in HP, honestly, maybe top 2. In S&D, though, they're pretty bad, honestly. And then Control, they're definitely competent. You know what I mean? They're definitely a competent Control team. If they work on their S&D and they can be good at maps 1, 2, 4, and 5, that's a great place to be. For all the Optic fans that think, you know, we should be winning, it's only the first event. You had a 2-man change coming into this year. Give it some time. And then for all the Optic haters who are like, haha, you didn't get 1st place, like blah, blah, blah. Like, listen, at the end of the day, this Toronto Ultra team also looked completely different. They looked so much better than everyone else. I don't think even if Optic made it to the finals, they were beating this Ultra team. And we'll get to that. But Optic, I would not panic. You guys came in 3rd place. You're in 3rd in the standings. It's a good way to start the year. Now for 2nd place, Atlanta FaZe, 145 CDL points, which is 45 more than Optic. So a pretty big gap between FaZe and Ultra compared to the rest of the league, which is very almost expected to start this year. If we look at FaZe's stats for this year, I mean, Celium 1.3 practically is insane. Simp has been in MVP form. Obviously, Draws has really turned up from the first couple weeks, which has been great to see. BZ, listen, he's got a .98. This might be like, oh, BZ's having a bad year. Like, obviously, he's not playing as good as he was last year, but different games. Simp is being that guy this year, like a BZ was that guy last year. I would like to see Abe obviously get his numbers up a little bit, get over a 1, and that would make this team really, really good. At the end of the day, I mean, this team is still 2nd place. They're good in every single mode. They're obviously really good in S&D. They're really good in Control. And their HP has honestly struggled. But this is a team that I expect to be good all year long. And there isn't really much you can say about FaZe other than the fact that if they work on their hardpoint struggles, this team can be very dangerous. And then last but not least, of course, your major champions, the Toronto Ultra. I mean, look at all those W's there on the board. 1st place in the standings. They are 10-1 this year. Their only loss coming to Boston Breach, which is weird. I mean, obviously, it's just kind of like one of those fluky matches, I guess you could say. This Ultra team is exceptional, man. They are exceptional. You look at the stats, the only team where everyone has a positive KD. Every single one of these guys played exceptional at the Major. Like I said, they all could literally be MVP at that Major. Only 1 hardpoint loss on the season. They broke the CDL hardpoint streak record. So they are on a 12 hardpoint win streak right now, which breaks the record, which was previously held at 11 by like 4 other teams. I mean, they're the best at every single game mode, I think, honestly, right? They're the best at hardpoint. They're the best at SND. They're probably the best at control. I mean, this team has looked levels ahead of everyone else, honestly. And I mean, major shout out to these guys. They're all insane. CleanX has been insane. Scrap has been insane. Insight, honestly, this guy is the iciest player in the league. There isn't anything other that you could say about him. This dude is crazy. He's absolutely crazy. And then putting up a 1.4, 1.5, whatever it was in the finals. The dude, I mean, he might be coming super diffy this year. But yeah, that's kind of a recap of Major 1, some notable points for each team. Like I said, definitely look out for my video. It's going to be coming, talking about roster mania predictions for each one of these teams. I think we're set to see a few teams make changes, but if you want to watch that video, definitely sub to the channel, and overall, sub to the channel for more CDL content. I appreciate all the support on recent videos, TikToks, YouTube Shorts, in the live streams. I'm definitely going to be making more content for you guys, and I seriously appreciate it. So with all that being said, hopefully, I'll see you all in the next video.